Tonight, meet the man spurned by a petulant lover.
So why are you treating everyone like this? What? So you're just gonna keep walking away. You're not gonna answer yourself. Let go of the camera.
But a new player has emerged. Will his life change for the better? Find out after the break. Stay tuned. Rated PG.
How's it going, champions? So this is going to be a different kind of video, although I seem to say that every video, so I don't know what this is. Anyway, so with the whole Sony situation and that hornet's nest that's been kicked, every second video I see lately is about Sony. You know, there's just this whole constant conversation about what does it mean to own things now. And with this going on and on and on, a name of a company seems to keep popping up from time to time, a name that I had to check out. The name of that company is Evercade. Okay, so before I start my whole wholesome love story about this new company that I've got a thing for, I want to sort of give a little bit of a disclaimer and say what this video is and who it's for. Tentatively, I've called it an Unboxie review, unless future Justin doesn't like that name and he changes it. So what the hell is an Unboxie review? Everything needs a name on YouTube. You need to see something, click on it, and kind of get an idea of what you're getting. So obviously this sort of comes across as an unboxing and a review. It's both of those things, and it's also kind of none of those things, right? I don't really like unboxings per se, not unless, you know, what you're seeing is actually really interesting or you don't know what's in the box. Most unboxings are kind of like, all right, let's open it up and have a look. And you're like, oh, here's a quick start guide. Oh, yeah, nice. And here's a USB. Sweet, yeah. And here's another USB. That's strange. There's two USBs. You know, so that they're not necessarily that interesting. So that's not exactly what I'm going to do with the thing I'm unboxing. I'm more just showing it off. Think of it like, you know, you go to a mate's place and you see this thing in front of a TV and you're like, what the hell is this thing? And then your mate's like, oh, I bought this thing and it does this and it's really cool and check it out. That's basically what I'm doing. So it's not really unboxing. It's not a review in the sense of it's not a technical breakdown of the specs and here's everything it does. It's more just me talking about a thing I bought and kind of showing it off. And lastly, who is this video for? So essentially, if you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, like what the hell is Evercade, you're in the right place. If you are part of the Evercade community, there's nothing new here that you don't know, right? But I do invite you to sit back, make a cup of tea, and have a listen to some fat idiot talk about something that you really love. There are loads of people that make, you know, Evercade videos and retro videos. I'm not trying to become like an Evercade YouTuber. I'm just talking about something that's really cool and could potentially be the next chapter in my gaming life. That sounds a bit wanky. But anyway, so because this is kind of a happy video for the first time in a very long time, I'm going to hit my intro. Okay, so let's back up here for a second. So obviously the reason we're here is Sony, and I'm not going to go on about it, even though this seems to be the second time I've already gone about it on the video, right? But as a lifelong Sony guy, this has affected me on several layers, you know, things I've already talked about. And like, to be clear, this isn't just some fat hairy guy going, I just want to hold things. That sounds wrong. Anyway, the point is, as I said, through all this discussion, this name Evercade keeps coming up. It's Evercade. So what the hell is Evercade? Alrighty, so the blurb on the back of the box for Evercade is they've been around since about 2020 and they make consoles and little handhelds. The cool thing is the games for these consoles all come on cartridges like the good old days. Now the cartridges have multiple games on them. You know, some might have 2, others might have 20. Now, this might look like it's, you know, one of these like retro consoles that you'll see on AliExpress that, you know, have like 80,000 games games that you won't play. This is all completely official. Everything is licensed. The money is going back to, where it's supposed to. And the games range from, like the Atari games, Mega Drive games, SNES games, even like PS1 and, brand new indie games. So like a lot of people, I'm frustrated with this whole physical thing, but there's another part of gaming that I've also been frustrated with for a few years, even before this Sony thing, and that is the fact that I really haven't enjoyed brand new games in years. And the result of that has sort of led me to playing a lot of older games, a lot of retro games. So by extension, that led me down the path of emulation. So in saying that, I just want to quickly show you a little pet project of mine. Okay, so this is a mini PC that I've had for a few years, and I've essentially been trying to turn it into a retro console. So it's currently running RetroBat. If you don't know what RetroBat is, it's basically a front end. So it's like a pretty little menu you would find on a console, and it has loads of emulators for just about every console. You can put a ton of games on it and basically play it till your fingies are sore. Now, as you can see, I've covered it in a ton of reproduction Mega Drive stickers. Pretty much all of them are like my favorite games of all time. And then I covered it in a high gloss varnish, which was a lot of work and very scary at certain points if you look at all the ports and everything. So it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't know, it sort of adds to the retro-ness of it, if that is a word. But yeah, anyway, I'm pretty proud of it. So let's plug it in and just have a quick little look. So I'm letting the PC start up completely. One, it's going to give me a little bit of time to talk, but also I get to show you a few of my little nitpicks. So the idea with this, or the fantasy, I guess you could say, is this is supposed to be a retro console. Something that a friend that comes over that knows nothing about PCs can just sit down and play it to his or her consent. But the reality is it is a PC that's just running Windows, and you kind of have to squint sideways and pretend it's a console. Now, I've set RetroBat to load at, when Windows loads, but it takes a little bit of time. Now, to help with that, I've essentially created these wallpapers to kind of act as like a fake loading screen. And it works okay, but again, you're still very much, just pretending that all of this is a console. Now, this is an intro that actually I made, and I'm kind of proud of it. It's just a logo, and I made it to look like it's VHS. Yeah. So as you can see, it's really pretty. It's very cool. Also, all these games are completely curated by me. I didn't just download, 40,000 ROMs. These are all games that either, were part of my childhood or something that I haven't played at all. Now, another small problem which sort of adds to the pretending it's a PC is when you load a game, it's going to quickly jump back to the desktop. Now, again, we have that loading screen, and it's okay, but it's still very much, we're pretending. We're pretending it's a console. So the next problem is still kind of connected. So again, it's a PC. If a friend comes over and knows absolutely nothing about PCs, this works okay for a while, but if a small sort of PC issue happens, maybe you close a game and the menu isn't necessarily the active menu, the controllers don't work, or sometimes an emulator won't load properly, or a ROM won't load properly, and then I have to come along and kind of go, oh, sorry, yep, got to click on that, sorry. Now again, this isn't a big issue at all, at least not for me, but it does still wreck that illusion. It is that still squinting sideways thing. The next problem isn't necessarily a problem with RetroBat itself. It's more of a personal thing, but that's discoverability. So as I sort of said, I've kind of gone on this whole retro journey. It's either, finding new retro games or rediscovering games from my childhood. It's a little bit hard to find. Like, sure, there's lots of retro YouTubers and, top tens and that sort of stuff. But sometimes you sort of just need something put in front of you. Like when you go to a friend's place and you're like, oh, dude, what's that? And you're, oh, man, you should play this. It's really, really cool. It's just that thing of, yeah, sometimes you need something just put right in front of you. So the last problem that I have is a little bit of a weird one. And it's going to sound strange, but I want to pay for the games that I love. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, what a wank, right? Look at him. Oh, he wants to pay for things. And I get it. It's kind of like that kid at the end of the day at school, that complains that the teacher forgot to give him homework, you know. But here's the thing, it's like I want to pay for the things that have value to me. Teams of amazing people made these games, and I think they should be compensated. I don't want to necessarily sail the seven seas all the time, you know. Okay, so that's my mini PC, and I love it, but let's get to the meat and veg of the video. Let's finally get to Evercade. So this isn't really a history lesson, it's just sort of a brief overview. So as I said, in 2020, Evercade started, and they released a little handheld, which is kind of lovingly called the OG. Now, there was a lot of retro consoles sort of at the time. What set Evercade apart was the games came on cartridges. And the cartridges, they had several games on them, and they were based around companies and publishers. So you had Atari, Namco, Interplay, that sort of stuff. Now, I think I was aware of Evercade at the time. I like, it's familiar, right? But I think I kind of lumped them in with all those other little retro handhelds and stuff. So over the next few years, Evercade released several consoles. So they released the VS, which is essentially like their little home console. That's what we'll be having a look at in a minute. They also released the EXP, which is essentially kind of a newer version of the OG. They also released these little cool like mini arcade cabinets, and they have built-in games on them, but they also take the cartridges as well. They also released these little mini pocket sort of handheld things. They're kind of like Game Boys. So again, it's sort of a little bit like the EXP, but they're smaller, and they have built-in games and are kind of, again, based around publishers like Atari or Capcom or whatever. Also, at the end of the year, they are going to be releasing a new console called the Nexus. Again, it's another handheld, but it's a lot bigger, and it's almost a little bit reminiscent of the Switch, I want to say. So it's a bit like the EXP, but just has a lot more features. Okay, so this is the VS, although technically it's the VSR. So this is their newer revised model, but for all intents and purposes, it's exactly the same console. So as you can see, it looks really cool. It's really retro, very, very simplistic. Only has a couple of ports on the back. But yeah, it does. It has this sort of 80s aesthetic, but in a very sort of authentic way. Like it's not trying hard to be, cool and 80s. It literally looks like this could have sat next to a VHS back in the day, obviously, excluding the USB ports. But if we open the flap up, so we can see where, put the carts. And again, there's two, which is really cool. So you put in two carts and it'll load up all the games on both those carts. Now, depending on which cartridges you put in, sometimes it actually unlocks a hidden game. And we'll get to the hidden games in a bit. But yeah, it's just a really cool thing. Apparently it is a feature they are phasing out. So, but yeah, still cool regardless. So yeah, let's have a quick look at the controller. So as you can see, the controller very much matches the aesthetic of the console. It's very much got a kind of an NES thing going on. So super simplistic, but it's actually really solid. The D-pad feels really, really good. And I've got to be honest, I didn't think much of it when I first seen it. I was actually going to just use an 8-bit Do controller, and that's actually another cool thing with the console. You can use pretty much any controller you want. But after getting this, it's really cool. It's really simple. So when I play games with one hand, I actually play it like this, and it just fits really, really cool. So yeah, it's not much to talk about, but it's simple, it's cool. Also, just quickly, if I can grab it all here, talk amongst yourselves for a second, it has like a 3-meter cord, which is amazing. They've thought about that. They're like, yeah, some old fat schmuck like me is going to be sitting on a lounge. He's going to need a lot of cord. So they gave it to me. Good on them. Alrighty, so these are the cartridges. As you can see, they're fairly small, fairly simple. They're almost sort of reminiscent of a SNES cartridge in a weird way. I think they were initially designed to sort of sit flush with the back of the OG, so that's why they're a little bit tapered, So there's around, I think, about 80 or 90 cartridges at the moment, ranging from, series and companies and publishers. And I don't think you're supposed to get them all. I don't think that is the goal. And I think most Evercade users would say that, like you don't go and buy every PlayStation game, do you? But I'm not like that. I want to get every cartridge, but there's a reason for it. It's not some crazy collector going, I've just got to get them all and put them on the wall like they're Pokemon. I want to go through this journey of video games. I want to buy every single cartridge. I want to play every single game one at a time and give it its moments. Not this huge backlog that I've got to rush through so I can somehow be egotistical and go, yeah, I've finished all these games. I want to give each game its moments. And that doesn't mean, rushing and getting every single cartridge the second I can. I kind of want to do it almost like a kid, every payday or every fortnight or whatever it is. It's almost like a kid with an allowance, go to the shop or, probably buy it online or whatever. But it's like every fortnight or whatever. It's like, yeah, cool, here's my new cartridge. I sit down and I play these games and I enjoy these games. And that's the important thing. Like I said, I haven't enjoyed games for a long time. And in other videos, I've talked about how it's almost been a job. It's a thing I've got to get to somehow please someone. Gaming's changed for me. I want to enjoy them again. And Evercade's helping me do that. All right, so I've been sappy for a bit too long, maybe. Let's finally plug this thing in and have a quick look at it. Alrighty, so as we can see, first problem is solved. Plug it in, turn it on, and it just goes. There's no sort of Windows thing going on. I can just plug it in. If my mate comes over, he presses the button, it's just going to go and I don't have to help him in any way, shape or form. Okay, so the first thing I love about it is just the aesthetic. It is so simple, again, but it does. It literally looks like this could have been something from the 80s. When it comes to themes, just quickly, there's all these different themes that you can pick from, and I spent a lot of time going through them just to get back to the original one. Which it's cool because if you look at that grid pattern, it actually looks like the backgrounds on the original Transformer boxes. Which I don't know if anyone cares about that, but I care about that enough to bring it up. So I did. Yep. So one cool little thing just quickly. So this isn't obviously an online console. The whole point is this is a physical thing. You buy physical cartridges, but they do have a free indie game every month. So every time you download a new firmware update, there is a new indie game that you can play. Now, as is my understanding with these indie games, they do actually appear on carts further down the line. And just quickly, I did mention before that there are some hidden games, and these are cool little features. Some of them require cheat codes, some of them are like hidden button presses, but I'm not going to spoil it in how you do them. It seems to be a thing that a lot of Evercade people, when they make videos, they don't talk about it. They're just like, here's the thing, and you have to kind of go discover how to do them. And I'm definitely going to add to that and say, you can work it out. So at the moment, I've got two carts plugged in, and as you can see, all the games from both cartridges pop up. Now, the thing with Evercade is there is just so much to pick and choose from. Again, not every game is going to be for everyone, but there's going to be something here that you love. And just quickly, you can even go into, there's a browse carts section. So you can see, again, all the different cartridges. If there's carts that you've got and you plugged in, they're highlighted. And yeah, there is a lot. There is lots, and there is going to be something here for everyone. So if there's a cartridge that interests you, you can go in and have a bit of a look. This Interplay collection is definitely on my list. There is so much here that I used to rent as a kid. So there's Earthworm Jim, there's Clay Fighter, which is Mortal Kombat with claymation that basically sells itself. This is one of my favorite games of all time. It might be a bit obscure, but it's called Boogerman, and it's very Earthworm Jim-esque, but it is one of my favorite games of all time. So as I keep saying, the cool thing about this is these games are curated. There's love here. It's not just random games thrown onto a cart and give us money. Each game has, there's information about it. You click on it. There's stuff you can read. There's a history. There's a ton of stuff in the instructions that I haven't even got to yet. But yeah, there's the controls. So Splatterhouse is a game, again, I keep saying, this is one of my favorite games, but there's just a ton here that are. And this was a game that I used to play with my mate when we were kids, which is weird because it's a horror game, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have been playing. But anyway, yeah, one of my favorite games of all time. And wait, there's a thing I got to do. This is a stupid joke, but I'm doing it. So with old games, if I don't know, if you're young and you're watching this and you don't know what I'm talking about, most people will be old and they know what I'm talking about. But with a lot of old games, they had these sound tests. So you go into options and you could just play all the sounds in the game. Um, I don't know why, but you could, right? Anyway, so one of my mates, and hopefully he watches this video, he used to do this thing. I mean, we were like 10, right? So he thought this was hilarious. But he'd go, hey Justin, and I'd go, what? And he'd go, why didn't the chicken cross the road? And I'd go, I don't know, man. Why? And he'd go, because there was a butcher on the other side. And for some reason, that was the funniest thing in the world. Anyway, now you know. Now you know. I'm sure you're enriched. But yeah, so anyway, so this is, again, you're playing the game. You know what you're getting. It's an old retro thing, but it's just, everything works really well. The cool thing is they do have save states. So you can quickly save, and then, Justin gets hurt because I'm crap, and then I'm like, oh, I need to reload that, and you can reload that. So it does make things a little bit easier because, a lot of these old games, I love them, but they're not that balanced. They're not that fair. So that is a very, very cool thing to have. Now, I'm not going to sit and break down like every single game and show you everything. I mean, I'd love to, but it would take forever. But there's one more sort of point that I want to hammer home about, curation. One of Evercade's things is they talk about discoverability. They want to show people games that they've necessarily never seen before. Now, I talk about the good old days of games and things like, Sega and Nintendo and Atari. The very first console I ever played was the Atari 2600. And the very first game that I remember playing that I could play with one hand is a game called Barnstorming, which I absolutely adore, even though all you do is fly through barns. It is on a cartridge, but I don't have that cartridge yet. Anyway, the point is I adore Atari, but it's more a case of I respect it. Like, I love music. I respect the Beatles. I respect the Beatles for everything that they've done, but I'm not a big Beatles fan. And it's kind of the same with Atari. I like playing games where I go through a story and I finish the story where, most Atari games back in the day is just about getting a high score. And nothing wrong with that because that's all they could do at the time, right? But it's not my favorite thing. Now, when it comes to curation, right, I was like, yeah, okay, this probably isn't going to be my favorite cart, but I played through all the games, and again, there's classic ones here like Centipede. I love Centipede and Missile Command. These are all great games. And then I got to this one, Food Fight, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel like this might be one of these games that I quickly gloss over. This doesn't seem like it's going to be a great game. No, no, I love this game. I have sunk so much time into this game, right? And all you do is you go along and you pick up food and you throw it at the chefs because they're trying to stop you getting ice cream. This is the game. This is all you do. And then you eat the ice cream and you're like, hell yeah, I've got ice cream. And then I'm like, all right, I'm on the next level. And then I got caught because I was too busy talking to you. So this is your fault, not my fault. But yeah, so I got some bananas. I'm assuming that's bananas. I don't know. It could be vomit. I don't know. And I'm running, and I don't have food, and I don't know, and I'm gonna make it, and I'm gonna, yes, yum yum yum. Right. So this is the point, man. This is the simplest little game, but I love it, and I'd never heard of it. And obviously, anyone that's in so retro things and Atari stuff would be going, dude, you've never heard of Food Fight? No, I've never heard of Food Fight, and I love it. And I genuinely think this simple little, man, I got hit again. This simple little example sums up Evercade. It shows you things that you probably never would have seen. You know, you're buying these physical things that you own, and you're just experiencing these games that you maybe you wouldn't have. And I think that is very, very cool. And that's the thing. There's so much to find. There's so much to discover. And it's not just like super old games. There's PS1 games. They've got Tomb Raider. There are adventure games like Broken Sword. There's the first two Legacy of Kain games. There's just so much here, and it's not just a case of, like I said, them chucking ROMs on a game. They're making games work. They did a remaster of the first two Duke Nukem games, but they did the remaster, right? So there's so much love and care for the games, which I think is safe to say there's another company out there that doesn't care too much about the games. Ooh, shots fired. I say that like I'm somebody bored. And I don't know if I've done a great job at just conveying how much this means to me and how amazing that I think this is. I hope I have. I hope you can see there's a genuine love and joy coming from me. This isn't a review. This is my own story. This is how I want to play games now. I own these. I'm not renting them, right? I can give them to a friend. I can potentially, pass them to someone else in the future if they care, right? They're mine. Every day I'm finding these new games to explore and enjoy, and it means so much. And as lame as it sounds, I feel like a kid again, and I mean that in the best possible way. Story time. So I've got a few little these stories to tell, and these could be absolutely nothing burgers, but I hope someone gets exactly what I mean. Now, the first thing is when I got all this stuff, I had to go visit some family and sort of help look after them a bit. So I put, my VSR and all my games in my backpack and lugged it off to their place. And there was something, I don't want to be like, oh, it was magical. But there was something again. I felt like a kid, like I've just asked mum, hey, can I go to my friend's for the weekend? And then mum said, yeah. And then I packed up my Mega Drive and, you know, went over to his place and played games and pulled an all-nighter, even though an all-nighter probably would have been like 11 p.m. max. But you get the idea, right? And the second story is, and I'm worried this is going to sound so lame, but this genuinely meant the world to me, and it was a moment. All right. So when I ordered my stuff, so I ordered the VSR and I ordered some games, and I got stuff from like a few different places, right? And the games turned up before the VSR did. They turned up, maybe 3 or 4 days before, so I couldn't play them. So what did I do while I waited? I read the instructions. Now that might sound so stupid, but it meant so much, and it took me a moment. I was like, at first it was just quite literal. Oh, I'm gonna have to wait. What am I gonna do? Oh, I'll read the instructions, and the instructions are cool, right? Like it tells you a bit about the game. There's some history. There's the controls, all that sort of stuff. There's a bit of a blurb about like this is Atari, right? There's a blurb about Atari in the front of it. Now I started reading it, and it wasn't until about halfway through I thought to myself, when was the last time I did this? This used to be an important part of gaming. I remember when I was young, I was in hospital for a couple of weeks. And when I left, my mum, it was one of those rare moments. She had the money, she bought me a game. Now, the hospital was a couple of hours away from where we lived. So I bought the game, and on the way home, I read that instructions cover to cover. I knew everything about the game before I got to play it. And that's essentially been lost. And that's the thing is, in essence, gaming is memories. And again, it sounds lame and I don't want to lose people, but it is. It's memories. Evercade is starting to give us those memories back. And I truly respect that. And that's the thing. I truly respect, everything that this company is doing. And if you're interested, please look them up. Like online, there's loads of interviews and talks that they've done. They talk about, these games that they value. They again, are trying to get people to discover them. They're not just throwing games on a cart. Like I keep repeating. They genuinely care. Even just quickly, the community is really good. I mean, gamers, most of the time are a bit, we're a bit up and down. But over the course of the last few weeks, I've interacted with people and everyone's been great. Everyone's, helpful. You ask for advice or opinions or whatever. Even there was a game, just quickly, I'm going on a tangent, right? There was a game that I used to play when I was a kid at a fish and chip shop in the 90s. Man, I can't be more cliche with my examples, but that it was literally that. It was a game in a fish and chip shop, and it was one of those like old table arcade games, and you had a car and you drive along and you shoot stuff, and you could get like things for your car like razor blades and wings, and you could fly a bit. It was kind of like Spy Hunter, but it wasn't Spy Hunter. For the last like 30 years, I've repeatedly Googled and looked up and tried for this game, and 9 times out of 10 it's like, oh, that game's Spy Hunter, and I'm like, it's not Spy Hunter, it's different. I don't even have words, man. Like, just quickly in the group, I'm like, hey, here's this game, it's like this. First comment, oh, that's City Bomber. I'm like, City Bomber? Googled it, it was City Bomber. So everyone's cool. Yep. So in conclusion, I have a tendency my videos tend to ramble at the end. So let's just kind of sum things up a bit here. I truly have love and respect for this company. I respect for what they're trying to do. I respect the fact that they care about the games. They seem to care about developers. They're trying to help indie developers get shown as well. Again, they have, their free games and all that sort of stuff. They try and keep their prices as low as they can. They care about us. And in this day and age, I think that's amazing. For the most part, this isn't an online console. We're not renting these games. It's not, our things aren't attached to some account that can just be taken away from us. They're ours. I'm reminded just quickly. So I don't sort of look up to a lot of people in the industry, right? Like there's not like these rock stars that I'm like, oh my God. But there's a game series that I love called Oddworld. And if you don't know what Oddworld is, look it up, because I'm doing you a favor. Anyway, the creator of Oddworld is a dude called Lorne Lanning, and he's described it several times as the games industry being a disposable industry. You make something and then very quickly it becomes irrelevant. Hardware moves along and games are lost. And as someone who is a struggling game developer and a lifelong gamer, that is beyond tragic. This seems to be the only medium where this happens. Imagine in like the 70s, Star Wars comes out on VHS, and then years later things move to DVD, and it's like, oh, well, we released Star Wars on VHS, so it's gone. Sorry. No other industry does this. Every industry preserves what came before, whether it's, movies, books, whatever. All these old games deserve a place. They deserve to be remembered. They deserve to be looked after. And this is me rambling, but I think you get my point. So in conclusion, because I think I said conclusion before, go look up Evercade. These guys are amazing, and I genuinely hope, again, as a struggling games developer, I hope that some time in the future, potentially, I could have a game on there. That'd be cool, but that's just me wishing. Speak of wishing, here's just a fun little thing I want to do, because why not? Here is Justin's wish list for games he would like to see on Evercade. Now, a lot of these are literally just wish lists. They're not going to happen. Maybe it's, the VSR's not powerful enough, or there's licensing nightmares. Let's just have some fun. So this is just in case, Evercade watches this. I doubt they will, but if they do, hey, I love your work. Do these games. So, first game, City Bombers. Already mentioned it. It's great. Do it. What else? I reckon all the Monkey Island games. Sonic, because you haven't done Sega yet, but again, that's a licensing thing. But who cares? Moonwalker. I don't know how people feel about Michael Jackson anymore. I don't know. I'm not a fan, but that was a great game. The first Splatterhouse. You've got 2 and 3. First one would be good. Beavis and Butthead games, man, they were great back in the day. Okay, let's go. Let's think PS1. Okay, Oddworld that I mentioned. The last two Legacy of Kain games, I know they're on the PS2, but I don't know. Maybe there's, future Evercade machines, a bit more powerful PS2 games. Yeah. What else? Persona. Like the first two Persona games, they're like locked on like PS1 and PSP. They might be on Steam. I don't know. I haven't looked it up. What else? The Discworld games, man. They're great adventure games. PS1. Let's see. MDK. That was great because you've got Interplay, and Interplay made MDK, so that's just something to think about. The X-Files games, man, there was one on the PS1 that was a great adventure game. What else? Wing Commander? I'm just because they both had like FMV, so now I'm just on Wing Commander. There was a really good like Ghost in the Shell game on the PS1, which is like I had it and for some reason I traded it in, and it's like super expensive now, so you should do that. What else? PS2 again. This is just a fun one. VSR can't play PS2 games, but we're just having fun. Scarface. That was a great game. There's like a Transformer game that was really good. It's like Transformers Armada. It was good. Okay, so I'm going back to my first part. All the Disney games on the Mega Drive, man. They were great. Like Quackshot, Aladdin, and others that I forgot. There was a good Punisher game on the PS2. That was really, really good. And what else? I don't know, maybe just like the first two Yakuza games, because they're sort of locked on the PS2, and they made new Yakuza games, but the first ones were really, really good. Alright, I am done, and I've wasted your time enough, so thanks so much, guys. Yeah, see you later, champions. So this is just one little extra thing for no one, and I don't even know if I'm going to include it. This is just for any possible Australian devs that might be watching. I keep mentioning that like I'm a struggling game developer, right? And I always feel funny about saying that because I haven't released anything. So if you haven't released anything, are you really a game developer? Yes, because one of my teachers, Gregor, said I was a game developer. And every time I went, oh, one day when I'm a game developer, Gregor would go, no, you are a game developer. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, no, you are a game developer. So any devs in Australia will know exactly who I'm talking about when I mention Gregor. And on the rare chance that he sees this, I hope you do well, mate. I hope you're still kicking ass in archery. All right. See you, champions.